the 3 years I have known Mr. Burnett as my teacher and student government sponsor, he has had a never-ending supply of lessons to pass on to me. From the frivolous, like how to crack a sarcastic joke with good comedic timing, to the crucial, like how to always make an ethical decision, to the seemingly frivolous, but actually crucial, like how to embrace my inner dork. I not only heard these Burnettisms over the years, but they stuck in my mind and influenced my actions. I've heard it said that the best teachers help students to learn about themselves. In this sense, Mr. Burnett is a true teacher, opening students' minds to far more than the dates of the American Revolution. He acts as a role model for our class and has impacted us from the whole group all the way down to individual students. All 272 students sitting here can at least recognize him as a known figure, always there, always respected, always taking the time for witty banter with students he sees in the CAF. 153 of us have had the privilege of being inspired and challenged in one of his classes, with the hour and a half every other day as a time to look forward to. 14 of us have worked with him in student council, learning from his leadership and responsibility daily. 3 students actually wrote about him in their college application essays as a human goal to aspire to. And as for me, as for this one student, Mr. Burnett changed my life. But then again, that's what he does. He changes lives. For that, our class wanted to hear from him on this occasion. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my teacher, my mentor, my friend, Mr. Eric Burnett.
Good evening, Dr. Much, Chairman Broadman, members of the board, distinguished faculty, proud parents, honored guests, and you, almost alumni. A few years back, I stood up here at the dawn of my 30s, pretty darn confident that I had this whole life thing figured out. I went on to give one of those follow your dreams, road less travel type speeches. And at the time, I thought I did a pretty good job. But then I walked out that door, and a young, fairly accomplished lass by the name of, let's call her Geen Gandenberg, she met me outside, and she said, what was all that garbage? You mean to tell me I should have smiled more and tried less? And at the time, I merely discounted the comment as the false bravado of a soon-to-be collegian. And then she went off to Harvard, and I spent the next 6 years of my life pretty much ignoring every single piece of advice I gave that night. So here I am again, same suit, same fluffy hair, and but this time a bit more humble. And this time when I started looking at this class, I realized there was no one advice I could even give you. I mean, how could I possibly say something that equally applied to Sahil, to Akshay, to James, to Max, to Paige, to Lauren, to Heather, to Miracle? There's no way. And you've all danced at such different beats to get to this point. How could I possibly formulate a one-size-fits-all chat that will guide you through adulthood? Plus, I know that advice is almost always ignored. Whether it's from your teachers, your parents, or your friends, you rarely ever listen. We live in this world of affluence where most of us spend our days just trying to fine-tune our already near-perfect lives. Many of us then have subsequently tried to embrace one of those pop psychology, don't sweat the small stuff books, hoping that one day we might have some sort of cathartic moment while reading in the loo. But still nothing changes, because the moment you step outside the classroom, the moment you're away from the advice and you enter the fast-paced world of life, your logical brain shuts down and you inevitably revert back to your default manner of dealing with the world. And that is why enlightened counsel, eloquent sermons, well-meaning advice, it never registers more than a few moments when it goes against your wiring. So tonight I can't suggest how you should behave, but I can tell you that you must figure out how you are wired. So here's what I'm going to do. Since it seems like our school exists sometimes in this world of online anonymous surveys and common formal assessments, I'm going to throw out to you one final questionnaire. Let's call this your final test as a high school student. You're going to have to do a little work, get a little bit introspective, and figure out what makes you tick. Now, Ralph Waldo Emerson once called this what makes you tick. He said it's your iron string, and he argued that you must find the tune to this iron string if you ever want a chance to flourish at this thing called life. So let's get started. Question number 1, how will you know if your life is actually on track? How will you know how you're wired? Do you even know now? I'd argue that you do actually know now, because we've all been given this pretty flawless barometer, and it's called sleep. How do you sleep? When you put your head to pillow, do you fall right to sleep? Or when your head hits the pillow, does your mind immediately fill with the whisperings of fear, regret, embarrassment, insecurity? And once asleep, do you sleep through the night? Or is your night punished with fitful dreams and inconsistent tossing and turning? Now, some of you might have found ways to trick this sleep test. You might take yourself past exhaustion each night, or you might self-medicate, or you might even listen to your Taylor Swift playlist until your eyes start to close. So for all of you sleep cheaters, you Barry Bondses of the nocturnal world, you have to realize that your results will be doctored. But if you ever really want to find out how you're doing, go to bed one night at 9 o'clock and see what happens. If you fall right to sleep, you're good to go. If not, you might want to pay a little more attention to the next few minutes. Next question. Do you believe the goal in life is to obtain happiness or to obtain fulfillment? Now, a few weeks back, I got into an argument. I'll call it a discussion with three colleagues, Mr. Blacklaws, Mr. Ohms, and Mr. Hallam. Turns out that I'm pretty much always fulfilled but rarely ever happy. Blacklaws is always happy, not fulfilled. Hallam thinks it's a pointless conversation because of the same thing. And Ohms has an unfair advantage because he's Cuban, which means he's predisposed to be both happy and fulfilled. And one thing about the three of them is I realized that, you know what, they're fairly intelligent human beings, but they're wrong. Because when your goal in life is fulfillment, it's you that gets to choose the criteria. If you want that to be the pursuit of respect, of love, of service to others, of stability, of creativity, then you can do that. If you want it to be happiness as your goal, then more power to you. But I, for one, don't want to live in a world where everyone's trying to be happy. Do you think the world cares if Barack Obama is happy, or Jane Goodall, or Steve Jobs, or even James Cameron? No, we need these people to figure out how to plug up that hole in the Gulf of Mexico. We need them to advocate for the environment. We need